Hey everyone, so I've just been kind of messing around in the newest Minecraft Snapshot because it's been really cool to see the kind of stuff that you can do with the new leash mechanics and the Happy Ghast. And I kind of wanted to take a different approach to something that I've been seeing a lot of people doing, which is making elevators using the Happy Ghast. Now, a lot of the times when I'm seeing people make them, they tend to put the gas inside of a minecart or clip it through a wall. And that's because right now there's kind of a quirk with ghasts where you can't really manipulate the Happy Ghast's movement whenever it's prioritizing the player that is standing on top of it. So you can override that functionality pretty easily with a minecart. But I actually wanted to try and make an elevator that took advantage of this mechanic in a different way. So essentially what I can do is I can have this gas, it's ready on floor 1. I could be all the way up on floor 5 or anywhere in between and hit this button, and that's going to change some heights of bubble columns in the background here, and the gas is going to rise all the way up to floor 5 and align along these blocks when a player gets close. So you can step right on, and while you at this point could not move the gas with any kind of contraption, what you can do is just ride the gas the old-fashioned way and ride down or up to the floor that you wanted. Once you reach that floor, you can dismount, get off, and once you're far enough away, the gas will return to whatever position it was called to last. So in a lot of ways, this behaves a lot like how real elevators do, where they can receive instructions, but they will prioritize whoever is actually writing them before they start receiving other instructions. So what I could, in theory, do if there were more than one player present is I could be writing on this ghast. I could be writing and choosing whatever floor that I wanted. And someone else at the same time could choose floor 3. So now it's going to update and have its default position set to 3, but I'm still on floor 5. So I can go and choose, say, floor 2. And I can dismount the gas and I can hop off. And once I'm far enough away, it's going to go up to floor 3 to service whoever wanted to get on at floor 3. So it's a really cool idea, and I've been looking forward to something like this for a while using Happy Ghasts. I will say it would be kind of nice to have the Happy Ghast function this way purely via button presses and other stuff like that. But as of right now, because of the way that Happy Ghast physics work, I can't do anything to this gas, manipulate it in any way whatsoever while I'm standing on it. You can manipulate it in slightly more ways than usual when you are physically mounting the gas and controlling where it moves, but it's still not perfect. But I think because of the functionality of actually being able to, have floor priority and other stuff like that, it's kind of worth it to put up with that limitation for now because it ends up actually making the concept really easy to understand. Let's go ahead and take a look back here. As of right now, a lot of the wiring is just kind of what I've improvised, but the core concept is there. Where basically, what we have is we have a ghast that is leashed to the skeleton horse. So the skeleton horse, as it moves up and down, is going to pull the ghast with it. However, something else that we have is the horse is also leashed to the ghast. So both of them can influence each other's movement on their own. So if I am controlling with the machine where the ghast is moving and no one is standing on top of it, the skeleton horse's motion is going to take priority. So it's going to pull the ghast down, but it's actually going to descend very gently because the ghast is still limiting how fast it can fall. So it can go all the way down to floor 1, and And now it's set up nice and neat right there. And if I decide that I want it to go back to floor 4, the circuitry in here will update. It will set the bubble column height to floor 4, and the skeleton horse will ascend and pull the ghast up to floor 4. So essentially the way that this works is because dispensers require essentially pulses into them to change their binary state, the same way that maybe a copper bulb would. We have a whole line of observers that are pointing into sets of 4 dispensers, and the observers are going to receive a signal dependent on a couple of things. So all of the observers are just faced into these blocks that have these pistons on either side. And essentially what that is it gives 2 ways of control that kind of determine a smooth up and down movement. So the first thing that's going to happen is that there's this system which is setting which floor currently has priority, so what floor the ghast is going to default to. And essentially what you have here is you can set this up with any real signal strength length from 1 to 16 and it will still work. Right now I just have 5 floors and one of them doesn't actually really need any wiring to function. So there's really only 4 settings happening here. But essentially what's going to happen is this. If I hit any one of these buttons, it's going to update one of these bulbs. And it's going to send an observer signal down. And that observer signal is going to hit 2 different spots. It's going to hit this set of redstone wire. It's going to then pulse all these pistons to push any redstone blocks that might be above here, sending power down here, back. It's going to basically reset the whole system and depower every single one of these pistons attached to here. Then shortly after, the actual floor priority signal will come through. It will pulse the correct piston according to what floor you need. And then that signal is going to be just subtracted based on this. This is just to help with the addition of additional floors. So now it's going to, because it's putting out a redstone strength symbol 4, it's going to power these 3 and essentially keep these pistons held on. So it's going to keep those held on, it's going to keep these held on, and it's going to keep these right here held on. Shortly after that, whenever this signal strength updates, it's going to send an update through these observers up and around and back here. And what this is going to do is any pistons that aren't currently held open by the system are going to get set back to normal. And that's going to then remove any water that might potentially be there. And it's going to remove it from the top down. And that's essentially to help with if, like, for example, like there's the skeleton horse starts falling like a little bit too fast, it will impact the water and its motion will reset and it'll slow down. Because you don't want them to be too far apart or move too quickly away from each other because you don't want to risk the lead snapping. As far as I can tell, this just seems to be an optimal distance. I didn't have to really adjust the distance that they were away from each other. This just seemed to work fine, which is about, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks in between the bubble column and the edge of the ghast over here. So that's pretty much the limit of how this works, and so what you end up getting is just this really nice system over here. Now, there are a couple things, like, if you're a little too hasty going up to the ghast, if you don't wait for it to descend all the way, you can occasionally clip through. And I think if you're in multiplayer, you might have to still sit on the ghast, because even though it has collision on top, when it's moving, that collision can't push entities upward, at least from what I've seen. So I don't know if the ghast can support other entities. It just might not be able to. So now we have this villager here. Let's see if he can survive, and no. So yeah, as soon as I mount the ghast, he is going to immediately fall off, and that's likely going to be the case for really any mob that you try to move this way. You can circumvent that, of course, if you want the gas to move entities upward and downward. You could, of course, just leash them to the ghast, and then that would work just fine. But as of right now, this is kind of meant for one player, maybe a handful of players at a time only. I'm not quite sure how fleshed out these mechanics are going to be once they finish developing the Happy Ghast. But yeah, that's kind of the end of everything that I have to talk about. So I don't really have any kind of tutorial at the moment. If you can kind of get the general idea from looking at this if you know what you're doing. I guess if you want a tutorial, you can try and either, like, maybe someone else will build this, or I could potentially make one if there's enough demand for it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, really, really nice elevator system. I think, honestly, when the gas mechanics are fully finished, and, like, Mojang is done making tweaks to them and how they work, how they interact with other entities, this is truly, I think, the pinnacle of elevators for me. Like, it's been nice to have an elevator that just looks really, really, really nice. And the only thing that is maybe really wrong with it is you just have the guest, and potentially, if you're too close, the skeleton horse making a little bit of noise in the background. Who knows, there's a possibility that Mojang might add ways for us to fix that. If they end up making any changes, which, since this is still in snapshots, it probably will. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So, really, really cool design. I'm very, very happy with how it works right now. I'm probably going to be building it in survival if as long as nothing changes and I'm still playing survival snapshots in between now and whenever I actually get the motivation to put this into a proper build. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just some side notes. Because when you're mounting, you're technically kind of rotating the ghast in a circle, because you're offset from the center. You will need the center two walks of your elevator shaft to be transparent, because if it's not transparent, if I were to replace this with solid block, I immediately am unable to see anything and I start suffocating, which is not very user-friendly, so you will probably have to put up with that. Just to keep it seamless so that you can't see anything in the background, I put just another set of walls right here. You could potentially light this up so that the elevator shaft is lighted. But there's a lot of potential for how you could decorate something like this and still have it function perfectly fine. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching.